Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, DPalm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. Follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. Follow the entire MTR Network at the MTR Network. You found us, don't lose us. Make sure you subscribe in the iTunes Store. Subscribe everywhere podcasts are given away for absolutely free. And last but not least, leave that 5-star review on iTunes. I'm going to read whatever you have to say on the air. It's a great way to get your feedback back to me directly, or make me say embarrassing things about teams that I love, like Georgia, the Falcons, and I don't know if I can love the Hawks anymore. We'll talk about it. Email us if you want to say more, udpodcast@gmail.com. Let's get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've gathered here today not to praise the Raptors, but to bury them. I don't know what to say, guys. We've reached a weird, crazy, new plateau of LeBronism, and I think it's magical to say that we're watching it. I think it's magical that one day we'll be bouncing a kid on our knee and telling him that we watched that 30 for 38 part series, Cavs Warriors, why won't LeBron go away? We lived it. And I, for one, couldn't be prouder. If you're here, you already know it's the season. LeBronukah is in full swing. There's a 4-game sweep of the Toronto Raptors. And we'll start there, I guess. We'll get to LeBron in a second. We'll get to the greatness that is LeBron in a second. But I do want to talk about the Raptors because this is a Raptors team that basically went wire to wire. They basically ran the East the entire year. Boston got hurt. Cleveland came out lethargic, changed their entire team at the trade deadline, and they had to figure out how to play together. So when I say that Toronto was not ripe to be swept in the second round, I want to make sure that lands because no one seed in NBA history has ever been swept in the second round of the playoffs. Ever. This is a Raptors team that, if you listen to very popular NBA prognosticators, was finally in position to do it, was finally ready. They were ready to climb that LeBron cliff. They were willing to knock off the giant. Their 1 seed meant more than their 4 seed because they'd done it all year. DeMar DeRozan had improved as a player. He'd added that three-point shot. Kyle Lowry was finally made the leap to a beyond all-star, to someone you can win a title with. 4 games. 4 games. Since LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers beat the Toronto Raptors by 38 points in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals of 2016, LeBron James has not lost to Toronto in the playoffs. The questions are out there now. What do you do in Toronto? Do you blow up the team? I don't know. You got 2 All-Stars in DeRozan and Lowry. I don't think Lowry can win you a title by himself, but I think he can be the number 2 guy on a championship team. I don't know if DeMar DeRozan's your number 3 guy on a championship team. Honestly, I've watched this guy fold like laundry every playoffs. For all the changing and evolving he had done, he wasn't hitting threes. He turned back into the DeMar DeRozan that ends up getting him benched at the end of Game 3 and a frustration flagrant ejection in Game 4. This is a basketball team that's run by essentially very smart basketball people. They have a very smart front office who makes shrewd moves. They have a very good head coach who's probably going to win Coach of the Year, like he's going to be in the top 3 in voting. And he's going to accept his award after being swept in the second round of the playoffs. I don't know what the next move is in Toronto. And I think that while the Jordan 90s were happening, I was too young to appreciate the business side of the sport. But this is what a generational player does to a conference. It ruins it. A few years ago, the Hawks had the number 1 team in the East. They won 60-some-odd games. They had 5 All-Stars. It was our year. And then LeBron happened. I remember it was the spring I moved back to Atlanta. And my wife and I and 2 of our friends went to Game 3. We thought, hey, we'll buy some cheap seats. We'll drink beers. We'll cheer on the good guys, but we'll marvel at LeBron. LeBron didn't even really do it to us. The team just leaned on us and we folded. It's also the year that a certain police force in a certain Big Apple broke a certain player's leg. I'm not saying that LeBron, quote-unquote, stopper exists. I am saying I think it would have gone 5. But let's talk about the LeBron stoppers, because that's one of the things this very bright front office did. They brought in not just one, not just two, a bevy of bodies they could bring off the bench to say, no more, Mr. King, not today. And they rolled off the assembly line, long, rangy, athletic players who were going to keep LeBron in front of them. And he shredded them. He was taking fadeaways over Kyle Lowry because, as noted in Game 2, he was literally taking fun shots to see if he could hit them. I said Cavs in 3 when the season started, when the series started. Partially because I'd watched this team kind of round into form at the end of the Pacers series, including the Tristan Thompson rejuvenation game in Game 7, where you're like, wait a second, this is the Tristan that, while averaging 8 and 8, demanded that large contract because of the presence he brings to the court. It's like the Tristan of the last few months had said, hey, I've had enough, let's get old Tristan back in here, and that's what we got. I always said Cavs in 3 because it was kind of a joke. I like to dismiss the Raptors, and I had a couple Raptors fans actually get mad at me, like, there's only one player on that side. We've got a better team over here. I'm like, that's great, but what do you do about that one guy? And the craziest thing was, this wasn't one guy. The team played better as they got the minutes, and lo and behold, Minnesota Kevin Love emerged from the ashes. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it happened. I just know Kevin Love was hitting open shots. He was active on the rebound. He was using the moves I know he has in the post, and he was doing work. Am I saying this is a Cavs team that's going to win the title? I don't know. I feel good about their chances in the Eastern Conference Finals. LeBron James has such gravity that he alters the path of your franchise. You come up and say, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to LeBron. I'm going to beat and pass LeBron. And when you fail, because for 8 straight years everyone has, it irreparably changes your team. They broke up the Big Three in Boston because they couldn't climb LeBron Mountain. Paul George was the guy in Indiana. He was the future. He ran west. He ran west because he knew I can team with whoever I want. I can gather whatever forces I may. I cannot beat this man in the playoffs. Who else jumped up only to get knocked down? The Hawks we talked about. Shit was embarrassing. And then it's been kind of the Raptors ever since. You had the baby Celtics last year. I don't count that. The Celtics, honestly, with Hayward and Irving, that'd be a hell of a series. We're not going to get that. We're going to get Brad Stevens getting blood from a stone versus LeBron James. And I think that eventually you're going to see LeBron James take, quote-unquote, Scary Terry and rip that mask off. Because nothing scary about that, Terry. No one's afraid of you. The thing about LeBron in this series was I saw something I hadn't really seen. You saw flashes. We've all seen flashes. We've seen the run against Orlando where he closed out the final 21 points. We've seen a couple of finals like stretches where you've seen peak LeBron. I honestly think peak LeBron was the winning streak in Miami when they were just obliterating people night after night. It was like 26 games. It was absurd. But this is the first time that we've seen this kind of peak LeBron for a sustained period in the playoffs. His record for 40-point games in the playoffs is 3. He's already got that. There are 2 rounds left, or there are at least 4 games left for LeBron. Let's just, at least 4 games left. We know it's going to be more. I'll just hedge my bets. And I don't know what's next. Because for years, I've made the statistical comparison and said that he was better than Michael Jordan. I said that, look, LeBron James is a more complete player than Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's early playoff failures were on a much smaller stage. LeBron's stage, whenever he failed, was always the biggest possible because he was willing to drag, kicking and screaming, people like Delonte West and Zunas Ilgauskas. And you realize that Boobie Gibson, I'm kidding. Boobie Gibson was an integral part of a finals team because LeBron James dragged them there. Has there been bumps on the road? Of course there have. The lights are brighter than ever. That the deciding game against Dallas, and I think it was 11, it's inexcusable. The last quarter against Boston, when on the first run against Cleveland. Hey, he was a kid. He was growing up. He's learning. This is final stage LeBron. And I would say compare year 15 LeBron with year 15 Jordan, but that was Jordan's last year in the league. Spoiler alert, I don't think LeBron's quite yet done. But for years, it's been the statistical comparison. It's been the all-around basketball dominance. It was in the sheer efficiency, but also the assists, the rebounding, the different things that I could quantitatively show you why LeBron James was better. Well, now, as we've reached year 15, we're seeing that thing we always saw from Jordan. What do people say? That killer instinct, that alpha male, whatever you want to call it. Jordan had it in spades. He would invent slights where slights didn't exist. I think we're seeing that level LeBron, and when you match his skill with this kind of weird tenacity, it gets scary. So a rumor going around, a theory floating around, is that one of the reasons Game 2 happened the way it did is because of that 2011 Mavericks team. What do you mean? Glad you asked. So the head defensive assistant on that team was Dwayne Casey. He designed a game plan that said, make LeBron hurt you from mid-range, he'll fold and can't do it. And in 2011, he was right. There's a theory floating that Game 2 happened because of 2011. That his decision to hit a floater, a fadeaway floater, jumping 8 feet backwards over Kyle bleeping Lowry, who is shorter than me, I think, wasn't because he had to fade that shot away. It was because Dwayne Casey told him he couldn't do it a couple years ago. And if LeBron James is holding grudges against assistant coaches from 7 years ago, hold on to your butts. It's going to get real ugly real fast. And what's even funnier is that as this theory kind of gains steam, or I've heard it from more and more places, old stories are starting to leak out. So I don't know if you guys remember, but in the late 2000s, a big rivalry in the East was the Wizards, or the Wizards versus the Cavs. LeBron and Gilbert. They'd always go at each other. I believe Deshaun Stevenson ended up in a Jay-Z song because of it. Well, there's a game that happens. I forget what year it was. It had to be, let's see if I can find it. I don't have the year closely on me. But what happened was, Gilbert Arenas hit the free throw line at the end of the game, and LeBron came over and said something to him. And he missed the free throw, and the Cavs won the game. And the rumor's always been, LeBron told him, you're going to miss it, and we're going to win. Well, Gilbert Arenas on Instagram, because 2018, revealed what was actually said. LeBron said, if you miss these, you know who will win the game. It was a running joke about Damon Jones. Damon Jones. I kept calling him sweet and forced the Cavs to bench him Game 5 because anytime he was on the floor, I went ISO. So he was benched the whole game. So LeBron was saying, if I missed, I knew he was going to finish the game. So they subbed Damon Jones in. The next possession, LeBron faked like he was driving left, so I stepped up. He passed the ball to Damon Jones in the corner, and fucking Damon Jones hit the shot like that fucker said. Gilbert Arenas is not I don't know, he's never lied. He's pulled guns. I don't think he's ever lied. I believe this story. I believe this story because that tells me that we've reached, like, the place that we've reached now in LeBron is organic. The place where he's down 5 in Toronto in Game 1 with under 2 minutes to play, and he's smiling. The kid from Akron chewing on his fingernails and quote-unquote shrinking from the moment, that shit is dead. It's over. And honestly, I'm not sure how much of it was ever really there. From 18 years old, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and they told us, they promised us, that he was going to be the best thing smoking. He was going to change sports. And he lived up to the hype. And I think that's why people try to tear him down, because we're not used to that. We're not used to getting something that's supposed to be great and having it deliver. It's particularly in such a subjective field, allegedly, as the idea of sports greatness. But we've done it. He didn't just hit a bunch of fadeaways. He didn't just rip out the still beating heart of DeMar DeRozan. He didn't just maybe get Dwayne Casey fired right before he gets his Coach of the Year award. He took over a city. He burned down a country. All hail LeBron James, King of the North. Let's go to the other series in the East. Boston who people were telling me was, and I kind of said on this podcast, was going to lose this series. It's going to be a tight one, but they were going to lose because I think a lot of us are banking on the sheer talent in Philly. I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. No one watched Philadelphia this year. We watched the reports. We listened to Philly Truthers. We listened to Process Guys. We probably watched that big Embiid game he had against the Cavs late in the season. But no one was really studying the Sixers. Because when I watched them the first 2 rounds, I'm like, wait a second. They're a driving kick team. But the guy driving literally won't shoot jumpers. Not can't, because there are a lot of guys who can't shoot jumpers. But won't. Even young LeBron. He missed a lot, but he took them. So you had to be honest outside. Ben Simmons, if Ben Simmons throws a pump fake, it'll be the first one. I honestly, watching them more and more, I don't get it. I don't know what you do with this team because people say, "Oh, you can become a better shooter." You can't just learn to shoot. When things get crunch, when crunch time comes, you revert to the player you were. We talked about DeMar DeRozan earlier. He stopped taking the threes that he'd been touting about taking all season, how he'd become a different player. When things got real, he became old DeMar DeRozan. Ben Simmons will never be a jump shooter. And I think there's a real ceiling on his abilities as a point guard in this league, despite his size, despite all the different matchup problems he presents. If you won't take a jumper, then we're not going to guard you in jumper area. The way the Celtics have done this is on the fast breaks and on the loose balls where the Sixers are at their best. They're at their best where, I guess you call it, when I was a high school wrestler, so scramble drill. Like when things are going crazy, that's when they're at their best. They're able to push the pace and make you make decisions and then exploit those decisions. What the Celtics have done is that they run down the court on these fast breaks and then get wide in the lane. So that Ben Simmons' options suddenly become a lot flatter and a lot less attacking to the rim, and it slows down and throws off the entire Sixers attack. All that being said, you can't hit a jumper, you can't take a jumper, you can't be seriously taken in this league. Joel Embiid's been fine. Look at the numbers they're holding up, but if you watch it, you see the deficiencies in his game, particularly when it's lined up against Al Horford. I do have a soft spot in my heart for Al Horford because once a Hawk, always a Hawk. Al Horford's not athletically more gifted than Joel Embiid. That's a crazy thing to say. But if you watch this series, you wouldn't know it. Because he's smarter, older, wiser. And Embiid does feel like the unrefinement that we've all kind of championed. Like, oh, he's to be molded and da-da-da. It's coming back to bite him because there is no true, reliable post game. Transition, bananas. Popping out in the 3, becoming that kind of prototype for the new big, crazy good. When the game slows down and we need you to go get 2 on the block, things are getting awfully tight for you there, Joel, and I'm not sure how feasible that is to becoming a further NBA player. Let's talk about the next series because, spoilers, you don't lose with 3-1. I mean 3-0. Sorry, Warriors. 3-0 is a death sentence in the NBA, which is fine. It makes perfect sense. And I think the Sixers are going to lose the next game. So you look at Boston and Cleveland, and yeah, Brad Stevens is a great coach. Talent wins out in this league eventually. And I think that's what's going to happen now. Go out west. 2 series that I hope to be a bit more competitive than they have been. It's been really refreshing to see the Anthony Davis show in the playoffs. I think that we saw an emergence, a leap from him, if you will, in the back half of the season after Boogie went down. The same way that you saw, like the streak of LeBron. You see those glimpses of, oh, this is what it could be, and it shows the athlete, shows the player, like, this is what it can be, and that's when kind of that fire gets weirdly stoked, and I think that we're going to see a big year out of Anthony Davis. I just think the Warriors are just too much, particularly when they brought back Steph. I watched that night, and it was the Darth Vader music. It was, oh God, it's over. It was Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One. It was the lightsaber sparking in the darkness and the knowledge that you were trapped in a tube with something that was going to kill you. And he hit that first 3, and I was like, I don't know why they're still playing. Let's just get everybody some rest and head into the next round. Thanks for coming out. But, big on the Pels for having a little spirit, a little heart. I think this team is a different team next year, a better team next year. And I think that the West well, the Big Bad West, it's not as top to bottom strong as everyone wants you to think it is. So I think the Pelicans could be in a real good hunt for that top 3 seed if everyone stays healthy next year. Houston and Utah. It's fine. It's fine. Donovan Mitchell's fine. I'm not a James Harden stan. I don't like watching his game. It's aesthetically displeasing to me. I do think that the next round is going to be a lot more interesting because both teams like to push pace. You've seen the Warriors kind of get pushed pace-wise by the Pelicans in the beginning of their series. No one's really tried to run with the Rockets yet. So it's going to be interesting to see if their dedication to the half-court defense and Clint Capella's involvement in not just help defense, but also the offensive glass can maintain at the pace the Warriors are going to do. Or we're going to see a reversion to out to the races, a fight with which I'm not entirely sure if the Rockets win. Do the Warriors just have more guns? I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch. But, yeah, that's it, man. I wanted to take a little time, middle of the week, celebrate the great time that is LeBronukah. My name is DPalm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. Follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. Follow the entire MTR Network at the MTR Network. That was your show. This is your outro. See you guys this weekend.